Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me again. It's TeaRon. That's TeaRon, period. And this is a special episode of Ubiquitous Blacks Reviews. And that is because joining me today to discuss this latest Tyler Perry release is a good friend of mine. And if you really mess with me the long way, you recognize this person from a past interview that we conducted. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to, again, the host of PGC, the Fat Girl Chronicles podcast, and multi-talented, multi-hyphenate, all the things. Joining me today is none other than Miss Leo Rochelle. Leo, talk to the people.
Hey, thank you for having me back. Listen, when people be reading my bio, I be like, that's me. Yeah, be sounding all important.
Well, I'm glad to have you today on this iteration of our podcast, doing a movie review as opposed to interviewing you about your life and all the things that you do.
I'm excited.
But if you want to check out our past interview where Leo gives the rundown about who she is, why she does what she does, all her creative endeavors, I will link it in the show notes and also here on this video. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into it. Let's not waste no time. Let's
come on.
Tyler Leviticus Perry.
Okay.
You done it again. I must say, you done it again. This time, Tyler, he's trying to diversify his portfolio a bit. He's going period piece. He's going based on real life events, and he's trying to give us something that is so far removed from himself. And the question that I have is this: is it something that, you know how they say when you're writing creatively that you should write what you know? Is this just so far out of the realm of what Tyler Perry is used to doing that it doesn't really give what it's supposed to give? That's, where I'm at with it. And furthermore, prior to finally getting to watch this film, there was a red carpet interview, like at the premiere, I would assume, where Tyler Perry says that he wrote the script in 2 months. No. Wait, that's generous. 2 weeks.
I was going to say, no, 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
The script took 2 weeks to write, and that's because when I sat down with Lena King, I flew to Vegas immediately to meet with her. She was 99 years old. I didn't know what to expect, but she was in her right mind. She was clear. She sat with me and told me this story about her and Abram, and I thought, there's the way in. And we started from there, and the story flooded out of me once I got all the information.
He says that he wrote the script in 2 weeks, that he went and met with real life Lena, right? And they sat down, they spoke, and although she was up there in age, that she was of sound mind, and she, gave her story, and he took everything that she said and, wrote the whole entire script. So I'm like, okay, you met with one person, one source, and you said you wrote the script in 2 weeks. I don't think that's a flex. What about you?
I don't think it is either, because where is the creative flow? You know what I'm saying? In 2 weeks, that's not even, I feel like, and granted, he may have been writing for a longer period of time and doing, but at the same time, anybody that is going to write something like riveting or something that is really like profound, and it's something that's based on true life events, ain't gonna brag about writing something in 2 weeks. That literally shows that you did no research. This lady could have been telling you something that she may have been of sound mind and sound body or whatever, but I'm of sound mind and sound body, but I can't even remember some of the takes from 10, 15, 20 years ago.
Not clearly. Not
So,
clearly. Have you
yeah.
ever thought back about something, or you told somebody a story about something from a long time ago, and in your subconscious mind, as you're telling the story, you say to yourself, "Did I make this part up?
Yes,
Did that actually
absolutely.
happen like that?"
Or is this how I wanted it to happen?
Because
So I look like the better person while I'm telling this story.
exactly. If I'm telling you stories from the 30s and 40s, I can remix it a little bit, especially if it's undocumented. You know, I'm not.
And if you're not gonna go do your research, you're not gonna go ask somebody about this. Let me go ahead.
Yeah,
and
like okay, I'll take your word for it. Yeah. I just wonder if he went to any like Library of Congress, did any, you know how they, when you go to the library, you can pull up the old news articles and they got the little slide thing.
The little thing where you can slide to see all of the old articles.
Yeah, yep. You know, stuff like that. I'm wondering if the team behind this did that, because I do know that there was a documentary that was made previously about the 6888 women, and you really could have just watched that and built
anyway. Built your storyline based on that, and then added what you were able to get from the source, the live source. And then weren't some of the other women still alive? Why did he only use her as a source?
I don't know.
I mean, I know you don't know, but that's just a question. Like, because at the end, you know, he showed the real life Lena, and then he showed, you know, a bunch of the other women. And so it's like, okay, why would you only use one source when you see some of the other ones may possibly have still been alive? I don't understand.
Maybe no, well, never mind. I ain't gonna say what I was gonna say. Okay. So we're getting ahead of ourselves here, but that's all right. We'll pause for a second. We want you all to check out the trailer for the 6888.
Let's back it up.
And we'll be right back with our full discussion.
Mr. President, this assignment has proven to be a logistical nightmare. Even tried the Women's Army Corps.
You mean the White Women's Army Corps?
Well, is there another?
The Postal Battalion? They think the only thing we good for is deliver some damn mail.
Ladies, we have been ordered to provide hope. The soldiers have not heard from their loved ones, and their loved ones have not heard from them. We are at war, and when you are at war, you make do. This is our mission.
Okay, so that was the trailer for the 6888. Leo, I'll see if I let you take the lead on this a little bit. Let's start with Miss Kerry Washington, okay? We'll start there because Kerry is the anchor for the project, right? She's the name, she's the actress, she has the resume, et cetera, et cetera. And she's also an executive producer on this film, which I saw, and I thought that was interesting. I really think that Kerry put all she could in it. I don't know if Kerry was the best choice for this kind of role, honestly, because when she first came on, and there's that scene she enters, and it's like, okay, this is her moment, right? They could have, first of all, they could have started the movie at that scene.
Yeah.
Because before we even get to Kerry, the whole first half of this movie could have been a teaser on Tyler Perry's website. We didn't even need it to be in this for us to get the gist of it. Or it
could have just been short. It could have been shorter.
Yeah.
And it could have been like 10 minutes of the initial thing.
2 minutes. Because
you know what I'm saying? It could have been much shorter.
Yeah.
And it could have actually then that would have given more room for more backstory of the 6888, because the whole time that I'm watching from the beginning, I'm like, okay, we see how we got there.
You're waiting for Kerry, right? The whole time.
Yeah, I was waiting for the 6888. That's what I was waiting to see the story of them. You know, it was like, okay, this was the story of one person. Okay, cool. Why was it such a long story?
Yeah.
It was a long, but you know, it was drawn out. And it could have been much shorter.
And I think that is, I think that's Tyler's way of wanting to, how you say, give respects to. Before we go in and dissect it way even further, shout out to Tyler Perry because one thing he does exceptionally, because he really means to do it, is that is give our elders like their propers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was his way of, you know, validating our lead. Well, I guess Kerry was the lead, but our main sort of character that the story was built around, and then into the 6888 part.
Absolutely.
I think that was his way of sort of giving that nod to her and giving like the respect, since he communicated with her, right? And that was the most backstory that he probably had to work with. But I truly think that it would have been okay to make that some kind of like short film edition, you know, just, you know how you go on an app and there's like, oh, watch this short. Like, I think that would have been fine to give an additional backstory to her, to kind of give her those flowers. But for the sake of the plot of the movie, it just added way more time onto it that doesn't change anything when you get to where you actually want to be. That's my opinion.
I was about to say something really immature.
What?
Because, you know, I'm a cartoon girl. And I was just going to say, you know, how they do the shorts for Pixar films.
Exactly.
You know?
It could have been its own thing.
Yeah, it's still giving her nod. It's still bringing attention to what she was doing and her role in the 6888 and how they were able to navigate their duties and their mission. And so that would have been perfect, because even in a short, you could have really taken a deeper dive into her as a person.
Exactly.
And it wouldn't have taken away from the story of the 6888.
Yeah. Who do we have playing Lena, who, since we're speaking of her?
Ebony Obsidian plays Lena Derricott.
I think that, because this is for me, this is my first time seeing this young lady in anything. Mm-hmm. So I'm not familiar with any of her past work, so this is my first introduction to her. What I will say is, I believe that for what she was given and the task she was supposed to carry out, with giving us the only backstory for the film, and then, you know, developing her later throughout the movie, I think she did her thing.
She absolutely did it.
She did her thing. She's a very beautiful young lady, and I think that she has potential to really dig into that, because there was no moment where I felt like I didn't believe anything that she was doing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it would be interesting to see if the real Lena got to see this performance and how she felt about it, since it was portraying her. But, you know, just want to go ahead and shout her out. And then there was a young man, I think his name was Greg something.
Greg Sulkin.
Greg Sulkin, who plays, what was the guy's name that she was?
Abram David.
Okay. I've seen him in something else, but I'm not sure. I want to say it was probably something else Tyler Perry related. I'm not sure.
Possibly.
But I'm going to say this. Forgettable. Because I was so disinterested in the interracial storyline. And in fact, in my notes, here's what I put, because what I started noticing immediately was the fact that this was written in 2 weeks. And you could tell that by some of the lines in this movie, because a lot of the dialogue is flat. And that has been a thing, honestly,
mm-hmm.
Tyler Perry
there was no
thing.
real depth to the conversation that they had. And it definitely showed that even when we talk about interracial situations or interracial dating, mm-hmm. or it gave the typical younger, jealous Caucasian woman.
Something we've seen a million times before.
Yeah, we've seen this over and over again. And it's like, oh, okay, this is just typical of this kind of storyline.
There's a few lines here. One that Mr. Sorkin says in the film, and I want to read it verbatim because, again, the way the line was delivered, the dialogue, it was just, I was like, there's no way people are talking about this. So he was at one point consoling Lena outside I guess they were at like a house party or something. That's what we're gonna call it.
The going away party for him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they were outside, and he says to her, and I quote, he was talking about the white girl who was basically picking on Lena for being black, right?
What was her name? Mary Catherine or something.
Something like that. Of course, and the names. Anyway, he said to her, he says, she's such a horrible person for treating you that way because of the color of your skin. Who is talking like that? Do you know back in the day, he probably would have just said to her, if it was just a real dialogue, like you're actually submerging us, he would have said, I don't like the fact that she treats you bad because you colored.
Because colored was a thing.
It was the norm. There was less hush hush around segregation and racial biases and stuff like this. People were saying, he could have very well even said to her, I don't think she should treat you like that just because you're a nigger. He could have very well said
or
that.
A Negro.
Or Negro.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
He could have said that with a straight face and it would have been the times. I don't think he would have said this like that. And I'm sure it's all, fantasy and made up and stuff. But then there's also another scene. So we finally get to a point where the women are getting together on the bus. Or they're on the train. I'm sorry. They're on the train.
The train. Uh-huh.
And that's when we get introduced to some of the other ladies who we will mention. Shanice Williams. Who did Shanice Williams play?
Shanice Williams was Johnny May.
Okay. First of all, the name. I at the end of the movie, they rolled up all the names of the women for the 688. I didn't stop to see if Johnny May was a real person.
It's a real person. Yeah.
But the name does not feel like she was. But I'm going to say this. Shanice Williams. I've always wanted to see Shanice Williams do more work ever since I seen her years ago. And I don't know if you remember this. Years ago, they had the live The Wiz on CBS.
Okay.
And she played Dorothy in that. And this has been, it's probably been almost 10 years ago at this point. And she was very young. I think that was her breakout role. And she did phenomenal. So she's actually a really great singer. And I think she's, she is easily could be doing her thing on Broadway. But I don't know. I don't know what she's been up to as much.
All the things, yeah.
So to see her and see that she was in the cast, I was like, oh, this is exciting because I wanted to see her continue to work. This ain't it.
Yeah.
Because it's my understanding, and I could be wrong about this, I think Shanice is from like New York, or she's from the Northeast. Okay? If I'm wrong, y'all let me know. But I think she's from the Northeast. And then she's playing this Southern role. And we've seen this in movies in the past where they just hire who they want and say, do this country accent. And it's bad.
It was bad.
Oh, and me, I'm fairly country, I guess.
Right. Okay, because we can easily be taken from somebody from the South if we get to talking real good.
I'm just saying. But then also it's like this. It's like this. The movie is filmed at Tyler Perry Studios, which is in Georgia. As much as I was excited to see Shanice Williams, play a part, I was like, if the accent is that bad.
And how long did it take to film the movie? Let's ask that question. Did they discuss how long the filming process was?
2 additional weeks from the script. But so they finally get together, and my point is the dialogue. She says, Shanice's character, Johnny May, says when the officers come and they separate the white women to another car from the black women, right? She says, and I quote, I wrote it down, so I'm not lying. She says, well, we done crossed the Mason-Dixon line. Nobody would, I feel like nobody was saying stuff like that.
Well, we must done cross the Mason-Dixon line. Welcome to the South, ladies. Segregation is just in them crackers' blood.
Why would she not have said, come on, Tyler, bro. Why would she just not have said, oh, I guess, we're not good enough to sit for them to be here. Just something something know.
That would make more sense than saying
Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah, because I've heard like country people say Mason-Dixon line, but it wasn't in that regard or wasn't in that way.
No.
You know what I'm saying? It wasn't in that way.
It's not something that you mention like you're crossing the street. Oh, I just crossed Main Street.
Yeah.
Like you don't, and it was his way of trying to set the tone that we are in this time, that we're in the South, and but give your audience. Well, I guess I'm not your target audience.
I was about to say, you're not the typical audience because like you really, really watch movies. That's your thing. That's your thing. And so whenever I decide to write a movie, I'm going to definitely call you because you're not about to be on here reviewing my stuff and be talking bad.
And it's just like, give some credit, give some credit to the people who are viewing and watching that they know. You've already put the date up on the screen. We've seen 1,000,001 movies about race and interracial dating, and you don't have to even really say too much. You could just show it. Oh, so anyways, moving forward, when we finally got past the hour and some, I don't know how long the backstory was, but it really felt like it was creeping up on 40 minutes.
It was pretty lengthy.
Before we even got to Europe.
Before we even really got into the mission of what they were supposed to be doing. And that was the part for me. I was like, I kept tapping the screen like, how far are we into this? Because, I be watching stuff. I watch stuff on my phone when I'm in my bed, because I'll lay there and watch something on my phone real quick. And so I kept tapping the screen like, how far are we into this movie or how much of it is left before we really get into the storyline or really get into what the movie is about? Because I was looking to see some powerful moments from all of these Black women. I was looking to see the powerful transitions of their struggle into this, into that. Like, it really didn't give that. And I was like, oh. Yeah.
It dragged to, and it's one of those things, it's like, because it's based on something true, what you're looking forward to, and you just want to see how you get there. But I really feel like we could have started at them like you said, it could have been 2 minutes, a quick montage. Oh, you leaving? Oh yeah, and then they on the boat, they on the flight, and we get to where we getting to. Then we're in it, and we are enjoying ourselves. Let's see. So okay,
you talking about Kerry?
Kerry. Okay, so when Kerry comes on screen, because it's Kerry, because we know she did her thing on Scandal for all those years, because she's been doing the thing all this time, we know. We're. Let me tell you something. I don't know about you, but I said, if Kerry holler one more time, you can't tell me. I bet when she was filming this project that there were people who thought she was probably filming a musical or something, because I bet she was telling people, I'm on vocal rest today. I'm on vocal rest. Because there's no way every scene, this is how she was talking, okay? I'm going to just talk to you like regular, but I'm going to do it in the Kerry Washington as a high-ranking official, okay?
Okay.
This is how she was talking. Well, what we're not going to do today is pretend like this is how all captains talk like, why?
It was so rhythmic.
Soldiers, I am Captain Charity Adams, and I will be your commanding officer. What that means is when I say do it, you get it done.
It was very thought out because this is how captains speak. Don't look at me like that. Don't say, it was in that vein. It was like, there are as much as there's a documentary that exists about this, as much as you are speaking to direct sources, there are also 1,000,001 movies based around wars and army,
military,
World War II, military officials. You could have just went and dug deep, watched Saving Private Ryan, and the list goes on. Like there's references to kind of get it. And I felt like they were just going for some generic cadence, or that's how it came off. Maybe it was just the way Kerry was doing it. And I was like, I wanted to get a throat lozenge by the end of it.
For yourself.
For myself. You know how when you talk to somebody and they kind of got a little something, and so you start to clear your throat? It was like that. I was like, you making my throat hurt, because Kerry Washington yelled the whole movie.
Yeah.
But, I'll give kudos to Kerry in a minute. But what do you think about when Kerry first came on and what she was given?
For me, initially when she came on, I'm like, okay, let's get it. Let's see the things. Let's see because, like you said, she was really good in Scandal, and I love Scandal. Like, anybody that know me know I've watched Scandal from beginning to end. Several times over. So I'm like, okay, let's get to it. Let's get to the things. Let's see it.
Yeah.
And it was just like
the accent. What accent was she doing?
I don't know.
What? What?
I'm trying to stay on topic because we're talking about Kerry. But the other accents too were throwing me. The mama and her sister, the mama and the auntie in the initial part of the thing, because I'm like, are they from Philly? Are they from Great Britain? Are they from England? Where are they from? Is this Bridgerton? Or are we watching like a 1942 time movie? You know what I'm saying?
They was losing the plot a couple of times. I was like,
I was like, it was just a lot of the accents were really, really bad.
Yeah.
And it was like, am I supposed to believe this accent? And I really went in with no expectation. Like, I watched it fully with no expectation, and it was just so many things that initially caught me off guard. And that was one of them.
Yeah.
But when Kerry came on screen, I was like, okay. But she didn't really, I feel like she didn't own the character. Like, I've seen her as Olivia Pope. She owned Olivia Pope.
Yeah.
She's owned a lot of the other characters. I feel like in this role, she didn't really own Chastity. It was just like, okay, this is who I am. This is who I am today. Okay. And she didn't really, I don't even know how to put it. I'm trying to.
Yeah, something was missing.
Something wasn't catching what she was trying to give.
Yeah. I think that it was played almost, and this could just be Kerry herself. I think it was played almost too pretty. Like almost too, like it wasn't like,
it wasn't rough,
greedy enough.
Yeah.
Because now I will say this: there are some scenes that Kerry, because when she first came on, it took me a while before I was buying into the character. It took me a while, and then when I finally did buy into the character, we were nearing the end. And there's a scene where she is being confronted by her superior. Remember, he comes to do the inspection to harass them. And she finally kind of takes up for herself, and she's really giving us something. And that particular scene, she gave a convincing, exchange with that dialogue.
With all due respect, my battalion is working day and night in horrible conditions. Now, I know we are fighting a war, but our war starts with being Negro. We are fighting on every front. So as I said, sir, over my dead body, sir.
So that was fine. And then there's also another scene where they were getting down at the juke joint.
Yes. Okay.
Which
I said, okay, swing dancing and whatnot.
I feel like that was completely creative liberties. I think that was all made up because it just was so much.
It was so random.
It was so
random. But also, like, kind of even talking about that part was, it was supposed to be kind of their sabotage. What was sabotaging their story, or what was sabotaging their mission?
Yeah.
Which is also why they sent the
chaplain.
The chaplain at that time. So I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. But also, it was like, yeah, they're gonna have a good time, but they didn't even lead into talking about, the Black soldiers being over there. They didn't really talk about the Black soldiers being in Europe. They literally talked about the white soldiers, the Black women. You saw the Black soldiers, but you didn't even kind of put them together.
They had no depth. The one
there was
guy,
no connection. The one dude,
the one guy who wanted to get with Lena was presented to us so flat, completely flat. He was like, "Oh, I see you. You look beautiful. I want to marry you. I ain't gonna marry my lady back home. I want to marry you." And
I was gonna marry her till I met you.
I was like, okay, it's really not that simple, but that's how it's presented to us. You may as well have left it out.
The love interest situation didn't even give love interest. It was just so.
It was convenience. It was like, oh, I guess I'll marry you. I guess
it didn't even give like, oh my God, this is so deep. This is, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I think the thing about a lot of us when we watch movies, we are looking for something to connect to.
Yeah.
We're looking for something to make a connection. And it just was like, I am not connecting with any of this.
Yeah.
Because even though it was a time piece, I still would like to have connected and been like, this probably something my mama went through, or, grandparents or great grandparents or whatever the case might have been, but it just didn't connect in that way.
What it was lacking was and this is going to sound wild when you watch it because it's full of emotion and it's full of moments, but it was lacking in emotional depth. Here's something that I like. I'll give you an example. When we are finally getting to the point where they are sorting through all the mail and envelopes, and this is not going to be super spoiler, by the way, y'all. So I'm assuming that you watched it and you know what we're talking about. If not, finish watching this, go and watch the movie, and then come back and watch it again.
Actual facts.
But there's a part where they are, they get assigned to sort through the mail from all the hangars, and then they have to set up shop at the school, and they have to clean up the school so they can, have a place to work in and so on. If they had not montaged the preparation of the school, because, a montage is just going to speed you through the whole thing, and, it's supposed to be uplifting. But really, if they had not montaged that or gave us moments, because there was a point where they were saying how they had to go through some of the mail that they couldn't really sort it out because there was vermin. The rats had eaten through some of the mail in the school and, stuff like this. Why not show them? You can do a whole bunch of close-ups, tight shots, and show us the conditions. They're digging through the mail. Here goes a rat running off. Or they land or chilling or whatever. You hear a little nibbling. There's ways to be really close up and visceral and really give us the intensity of the conditions these women would have been working in. Show us close up of hands shivering because it's cold. Y'all talk about how cold it is. I don't see nobody's breath.
Or even see, the little the little air, the smoky air coming, or they standing there shivering while they trying to do this.
Anything slow it down so that we are so invested. There was the part where Johnny May, Shanice's character that we mentioned before, where she was discussing the fact that she couldn't fit her clothes. First of all, it had nothing to do with nothing. We didn't need, I'm the only big girl.
I'm the only big girl
here, so my clothes don't fit. You know, it had nothing to do with nothing. But my point is, if you're going to make that a thing and then just mention on the side, well, I know y'all know how to sew, so get to sewing.
And why do you just assume that we know how to sew?
But it's one of those things where it's like, if you're going to make it a thing, show us someone like, okay, let's get your outfit. Like, show us them figuring out how they're going to make this uniform fit for this girl. If you're going to make it a thing, it should not have been in the movie. It didn't have anything to do with the plot. I think that's what the movie lacked. Oh, Jesus. I will give my rating for the 688. And before I give my rating completely, let me say this. I definitely want to give full respect to the women who
absolutely
dedicated their time, their lives, and sacrificed and served their country in this way. I don't take that lightly at all. And I think that there are a lot more unsung heroes and stories like this that could be told. And us critiquing the film itself has nothing to do with the real story of what happened. And I salute Tyler Perry in that regard, because it's like you are peeling back layers, or giving a platform to a story that would have been overlooked even longer if someone like you hadn't come along and wanted to make this thing happen. So respect to that. That being said, the film itself lacked the depth that I felt like it really needed. I felt like it was just missing the mark on like really showing us the conditions. And I think, like you said before, the backstory took up so much time that we had no time to really enjoy or get into the 688 of it all. There's a point where, spoiler alert here, there's a point where two young soldiers get into a accident. I'll say that. I won't spoil it completely. And they just start using code words and stuff for bombs, but there was no point.
And even with that part, we saw how they felt, and we saw briefly, how it affected them, but we could have also seen more to be able to connect with the other female officers that were affected. Not the main character, but like secondary characters.
Exactly.
There was no connection to them. There was no connection to their story or any of that.
And you have to be careful about stuff like that when you are writing these kinds of stories, because you do want to pull out that emotion and care about the people who, get into the accident enough that you're tied up in it, right? Mm-hmm. But if you just have a random it's like if you watch an action movie. I tell people this all the time. When you watch an action movie, you can go watch Terminator, the big shoot 'em up action movies, right? And the good guy or the person will be the vigilante be coming through, and he'll be shooting up everybody, and there'll be a guard at the door. He just go and crack his neck. In your mind, you don't care about nobody. It's 50 people he done ran through. You don't care about none of them. Why? Because we don't even know them. Mm-hmm. All you care about is where he's trying to get to this evil villain, and you don't care. He just killed someone's father. And you don't care. But that scene did lack that, because you could have traded off. I'm gonna tell you what movie does it perfectly. Life. In Life, what's the actor? Nunez. Miguel Nunes, when his character runs off and gets shot in the back and all that stuff, right? Remember that scene? Everybody knows that scene. That was not a main character. That was not a main character.
He was a secondary character.
Very secondary. But we got to know him just enough for us to care that when that scene came up, it mattered. And this was lacking all throughout the movie.
And it mattered, but it also set the tone for how the rest of the movie was going to play out and how their morale, their feelings, their overall understanding of where they are made a big difference. Like, damn, this really happened. We didn't get that moment. We didn't get that moment in this movie.
Yeah, it's a matter of just like slow down and take your time and let us feel the emotion of the characters. And one last note I have is that there's a scene that I thought was really well done by Ebony. And that's the scene where she finally gets to go to the young man's gravesite. Okay. And she has a solo scene. She does her thing or whatever. But there's a point where she's going, and these military graveyards, if you ever seen them in person or if you ever seen them, you see them on film movies and stuff all the time. They're laid out a certain way and you kind of have to navigate your way and find the thing. I so wanted that scene to be shot differently than it was. This is what I was imagining. I was like, okay, please, because when I watch stuff, I watch it in a visual way. What I wanted to happen was I wanted the camera to be passing by like low.
The names.
Passing by the names. And then when you cut to her, still keep the camera low and it's just going by and you see the white crosses, right? But we see her through that and she's looking. And just to really give it something more. And I'm like, and I'm wanting this in my head, watching it, knowing it's not going to happen.
It's giving the panic, the hurry, the fear. It's giving all the emotions without her having to give the emotion.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It's putting the emotion in the filming more than it is putting it into the person. And so as we're filming, we see the emotion because her feet are scurrying.
Exactly.
Across the grass. Or you hear her scurrying across the grass. And then you hear the airplanes in the background. You hear all of the other things happening, but you're still seeing that she's emotionally distressed.
Exactly. This movie definitely should have taken the route of like Hidden Figures and so on and really gave us that. And it didn't. And because it didn't, I'm going to have to give the movie a Jennifer Lewis. It's right in the middle. I didn't hate it. It's definitely not the worst Tyler Perry project ever. And the performances, the actors, I believe that they gave their all. That sounds shady. That's not what I mean. I think Kerry Washington meant what she did, and she had great intentions, and there were great times for her. The young lady Ebony, I think again there were great times for her. I think if you take away the horrible accent for Johnny May, that character, that there were moments for her too. There were all the characters that had major speaking roles had moments.
Yeah.
But Tyler Perry just didn't know what he was doing. And you felt like it was 2 weeks. Let me put it that way. Let's just say it. It felt like it was written in 2 weeks.
Yeah. It was really rushed.
It was like it was.
And I wanted it to be so good. I went in with no expectation, but I also, as I started watching, my hope was that it was going to be a really good movie, that it was going to be really in depth, that it was going to be a lot more to it than, and it was, like we said, that the backstory took up so much time and space that we could have gotten more information on all of the young ladies that were a part of, not all of them, but the secondary characters that were a part of Lena's like close-knit friendships, you know, the ones that she met on the train. If we had little tidbits of information on them, little conversations about them, a little bit of information about their, because one thing that they did do is that they started, when, I'm trying not to spoil it, but when they did started making some leeway in what they were doing in regards to the male, you started learning some of their skills. Some of, oh yeah, I used to do this and I used to do that and I used to do this and that. So I think if they would have gave that information prior to, it would have been really good. It would have been really good.
What rating would you give to the film, and why?
I'm in full agreement with you. It's a Jennifer Lewis.
Okay.
Right in the middle, because it wasn't terrible. Like, it wasn't a terrible film, because we've seen some terrible Tyler Perry films. And we all can agree to that. So it wasn't terrible. I feel that if it would have been slowed down, if it would have given more cinematic production and care, I really feel like there was care, but then he was real lazy. You know, it was kind of a mix of both.
Yeah.
It was a mix of being like really careful to explain these things, but let's just rush past all of this stuff, you know? And so if it would have given more depth and emotion and overall, I'm going to just say overall cinematography type of views, you know, because even though we don't produce movies and all that other kind of stuff, we be paying attention to stuff. Listen. Like, we love those things about movies, you know. People who watch movies love certain things about movies.
I'm not a supermodel, okay? But I know what looks good. You understand?
What looks good. Come on. Come on. Talk, okay?
I might not bake cakes, but I know what tastes good. But I know
I sure do eat them, okay?
Okay.
I surely do eat them.
As we go here, I have a few final questions, and you can kind of answer them quick or slow as you want. Okay. First thing. What did we think about Susan Sarandon's makeup? Because I thought she had the best special effects makeup. I thought she actually looked like Eleanor. What do we think about that?
I loved it. It was just the teeth that was bothering me, because they continued to sound like they was on their way out of her mouth.
Almost spit all water. She was holding.
Sorry. They constantly felt like she was trying to hold them in her mouth.
Okay.
And it was like she was talking, but it was like she was clenching her back teeth to make sure them teeth didn't fall out of her mouth. And it was just like, oh my God, take them out.
Oh gosh. And our surprise cameo performance, what did we think about Oprah as the legendary and iconic Miss Mary McLeod Bethune? What did we think about Oprah? I'm telling you, I went into it kind of blindly, that I didn't know that Oprah was even involved in any way. So, thoughts?
It was a random surprise, but also it was very underwhelming. It was just like, oh, hey, girl. and mind you, I watched this movie, like, I gave it my full undivided attention and all of that. Like, I made sure that I was fully awake.
Yes.
To watch the movie. So that's why I'm like, no, I really gave this my undivided attention. But it was very underwhelming. It was just like, oh yeah, that's Oprah. Okay. But it didn't give. Again, it did not give. It was not an impactful moment. It was not the moment that we thought it should have been, being that she was the one who triggered for the events to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It did not give that, it did not give that to me.
Yeah.
It did not set that tone like she was the one who kicked it off. Like, if you're going to kick it off, Make it impactful. You know, like, I don't know. I just didn't get that.
Okay. And then the last thing is, what do you think about the why are you laughing?
It was the tone. What are you? It was that pitch went all the way up.
I just want to know if it's just me or not. What did you think about the special effects? So at the beginning of the movie, we had a war scene, and there was a lot of bodies flying.
Listen.
But that's not what took the cake for me. I know that there was a lot of green screen stuff happening here, and there's also a scene where Kerry and the other young lady, oh gosh, I forget her name, who was like second in command. I forget her name, but it doesn't matter. There's a scene where they're flying over to Europe, and we kind of get that outside the plane shot, and the plane just really looked like a cartoon.
Yeah. It looked like one of the ones Bugs Bunny used to be in.
and then finally, this is what took the cake for me for the graphics, for special effects.
The boat.
No, not the boat.
Oh.
Not the boat. This is when the women came off the boat and they marched to where they were going. And there's an overhead shot of the women marching. And I kid you not, they look like little Lego people marching in unison. It is the worst effect. If somebody showed that to me, I would say, no, never mind, we're not gonna use it. We're not gonna use it. But did the effects bother you at all? Because I felt like
they did. They did.
Why do you? Yeah, they did.
Because it was just like
it takes you out of it a little bit, right?
Yeah, I was just like, oh man, I was hoping for a little bit more. You know, I don't know. Like, I continue to think that there is so much hope. You know, when we watch, you know, we have so much hope and be like, okay, we still give it a chance because you know we're like, okay, this is something different. Let's look at it in a different light. Let's give it an opportunity, and then it just be like, you. Foiled again, you know, that kind of situation. Like, but yeah, the bodies flying, that kind of threw me off because it looked like somebody was pulling them.
Oh
like,
yeah,
on the string. yeah, it was kind of like they were being yanked. Granted, they were being blown up, but it just looked like they were being yanked by strings instead of it being like a falling type of, or you know.
And honestly, I don't think that's how. You know, scientifically speaking, I don't think that's how a body would necessarily blow up.
I don't know. You know. It was a lot, but you know, like you said, I give it a Jennifer Lewis. Simply because it could have just had a lot more story to the movie.
Slow down.
It didn't have a lot of story to it.
Take your time, and with something like this, something of this magnitude,
you can't rush that.
We can't do 2 weeks on the script.
Yeah.
Okay. That being said, I have been TeaRon, and this has been Ubiquitous Blacks Reviews. You can find us all over the social media at Ubiquitous Blacks. I don't know, by the time you're watching this, TikTok is still around, so you could follow me on there at TeaRon with 2 underscores on TikTok, at TeaRon World on Instagram, and at Ubiquitous Blacks on all the other various social medias. Leo, where can they find you, keep up with you, harass you, and come to you with these comments about stuff that you had to say?
Listen, y'all can come for me, but don't come for me, okay? Leo Rochelle _ on Instagram, The Fat Girl Chronicles, PGC Media, PGC After Dark, on all other podcast platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and then PGC Podcast on TikTok while it's still around. Oh, we have a Pinterest and a Lemonade page as well. So Lemonade is PGC Podcast, and also on Pinterest. It's PGC Podcast or PGC Media. I haven't done it in a while, so forgive me for not my head. It's a lot. It's a lot to keep up with.
It really is. It's really a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, it's a lot of socials. So
but
forgive me.
It's all good. I will make sure to put it all in the show notes as well, so you all can check out Leo doing her thing over there on the PGC platform. And I appreciate you joining me. I had fun.
Thank you for making me watch the movie. Like, not making me, but like giving me something to do out of my norm. Because I probably would have skipped over the movie. I am not the person that usually goes to watch stuff because people be like, oh, go watch this.
Yeah.
I'd be like, nah, y'all do too much with everything else, so I'm not going to watch it until I really see something that triggers me to go watch it. So,
thanks. Would you watch it again? Get off my line. Get off my... Peace out, y'all.